All right, grade 8s, this is the last video for practice test number 2. Now the real test will be a little bit shorter than practice test number 2, but the questions on practice test number 2 will definitely help you guys get ready for the real test. All right, so for question number 7, we have a lot of decimals and fractions, kind of these combined problems for the last two questions here. What I recommend for these kind of problems is to write everything in terms of a fraction. Okay, if you do that, I think the calculations will work out very nicely. All right, so let's take a look here. If I have 4 1/2, let's just change that to an improper fraction. So that's simply going to be 9/2 times, 3.25. If we change that to a fraction, we need to move the decimal spot 2 spots over. So this will be 325 divided by 100. Okay, so if we move the decimal spot over 2 spots, then I need to have 2 zeros on the denominator. Divided by, I got 1.2 here, so 1.2, I move the decimal spot 1 place over, and that'll give me 12, and then I can divide that by 10, then minus 3/4. Okay, so that's step number 1. Just change everything in terms of a fraction, and then after that we can start simplifying this complex problem. Okay, so let's take a look here. BEDMAS tells us that we need to do the brackets first. Okay, so we need to take care of this expression first before we do the other questions. Alright, so 12 divided by 10 minus 3/4. We need to have a common denominator. So if I have a common denominator here, I believe the least common multiple between 10 and 4 should be 20. So if I go from 10 to 20, that means I multiply by 2. So I take my numerator 12 and times that by 2, so that should be 24. And then if I go from 4 to 20, I times that by 5, so that means I take my 3 and times it by 5, and that's going to give me 15. So 24 minus 15, that's going to give me a final answer here of 9 divided by 20. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to erase all this now. And I'm simply just going to put a bracket here and 9 divided by 20. Okay, so what can we do next? Well, let's just change this division statement to a multiplication symbol. So this will be 9/2 times 325 divided by 100 times 20/9. Okay. So now once I've done that step, just look for ways where you can simplify this fraction here. So I have a 9 here and a 9 there. That will cancel off to be a 1, cancel off to be a 1. Okay, now I have a 20 and a 100 there. I can cancel that off to be, 20 goes into itself once. And how many times is 20 going to go into 100? Well, that's going to be 5 times. Okay, and then from here on, I can definitely see that 325 and 5, I can definitely simplify those numbers. If I take 325 and divide it by 5, that will give me about 65, and that will give me a 1. And I think that should do it. So if I take these numbers here, this 1, this 65, and that 1, if I multiply those numbers together, I get 65 on the numerator. And on the denominator, I just have a 2, a 1, and a 1. So 2 times 1 times 1 is 2. So my final answer here is 65 divided by 2. Alright, let's move on to the final question on the practice test. Another mixed operations question. And once again, for this kind of a problem, I really recommend that you change everything into a fraction. Okay, so if I have 2.5, how do I change that to a fraction? Well, I move the decimal spot 1 spot over to give me 25. And if I move the decimal spot 1 spot over, I need to divide by 10. 10 has 1 0. Now here, you got to recognize that 6.3 divided by 0.7, you can move the decimal spot 1 spot over and 1 spot over, so that's the same thing as 63 divided by 7, which is going to be 9. So this is just going to be 9, and I'm going to write 9 as 9 divided by 1. Okay. And then I have a minus sign here, and then we can probably simplify this fraction here. I have a 5 there and a 15, so this is going to be a 3, this is going to be 1. If I look at this 2 and this 16, that's going to be 1 and that's going to be 8. So this is going to be 3 divided by 8. Okay, now let's try to calculate this this fractional question here. All right, so before I go into my final calculations here, let's just simplify this: 25 and 10. If I divide if I divide the numerator and the denominator by 5, I should get 5 over 2, and this should be 9 over 1 minus 3 over 8. Okay, so let's just multiply straight across now. This is going to be 45 divided by 2 minus 3 over 8. Okay, and now this is a problem that everyone should feel very comfortable with, taking two fractions and subtracting them. Let's just keep things simple, and let's just get a common denominator here. If I have a 2 here, how do I change 2 into an 8? Well, I times it by 4, so that's going to give me an 8 there. And then I would take my 45 and times that by 4, and that would give me roughly 180. So my final answer here is going to be 177 divided by 8. Final answer. Okay, so that concludes the final video for practice test number 2. Once again, our test is next class, and the test should be a little bit shorter than practice test number 2. I recommend doing practice test number 1 and 2 over again, and if you can do all the questions, then I feel pretty confident that you should be able to get yourself a very good mark on the test. All right, we'll see you guys in class.